Welcome to another program of reflections sponsored by the Beverly Historical Society. My name is Fred Hammond, and our special guest today is Silvio Salvanelli, a longtime Beverly police officer, a man born and raised in Beverly starting in 1924. Mr. Salvanelli, you're best known as a familiar policeman on the streets of Beverly.
Yes, I was in the police department 33 years, and I did about every beat. And to my advantage, I knew most of the parents of the children, which helped me a lot. So that's my career in the police department. And I happen to think that children and grown children are very nice, and it's paid me dividends.
You were quoted as saying 99% of the children in Beverly are good.
That's right. That's my belief.
Yeah.
And some kids get in situations where they have to kind of assert themselves a little. I suppose that's happened to all of us, but most of them inherently are very nice.
We have a picture of you in the police uniform over here to the right.
That's right.
When was that taken approximately, do you think?
I would say in the early 50s, early or mid 50s.
And over here we have a picture of your family, your brothers and your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad came to America, we think, around 1910, 11 maybe?
That's around that year. I'm not sure of exactly the year, but in that area they came here.
So in the picture we have mom and dad with all four sons in uniform, World War II.
That's right. I'm very proud of that picture.
Well, let's identify everybody in the picture.
From left to right, my brother Renato, he served in the Coast Guard, and he was on the crew of our largest troop transport, the SS Wakefield, and he'd been around the world many times. Standing next to him is myself. I was in the Armed Guard. We formed the gun crew, radio men, and signalmen of the Navy. I happened to be a radio man. Among my trips, I went to Murmansk, Russia, which was most interesting. And then I was transferred into the South Pacific, and from then on till the war ended, I served in the 7th Fleet from Hawaii to New Guinea to Leyte in the Philippines, and ended up in Manila when the war ended, when we dropped the bombs.
The man to your right?
That's my brother Arthur, my oldest brother. He was on a minesweeper a lot off the coast of Alaska during the whole war. Very rough duty, not much action, but the seas and the cold were very bad.
And the tall man, brother to the right of him?
My brother Bob was in the 10th Armored Division. That was Patton's division. And he was decorated in the Battle of the Bulge for saving American troops from German fire in a field in that area.
Now, mom and dad, their names, so you can get them on the tape?
My mother's name, maiden name, was Lina Morbitelli. She came from Italy, from the province of Marche, M-A-R-C-H-E, which is situated about halfway up the boot on the Adriatic Sea in Italy, beautiful area. My father comes from the same area. They come from near a beautiful beach named Senigallia in Italy, and they transported here, I think for romantic reasons, but it was never clear. They never made it clear to us children.
But she had a sister here.
She had two sisters in Beverly.
Yeah.
One that lived on Cliff Street in Goat Hill, and one that lived Beckford Street in Beverly also.
Now, your father was a barber.
When he came to this country, he was a barber. After he was here until around 1924, he took the police test and passed it. So my father, I'm proud to say, is the first Italian policeman in the city of Beverly, and he remained so for 13 years.
And you and I were discussing the fact that he did find some anti-Italian prejudice attitudes directed towards him because he was the first?
That's right, but I'm sure that's happened to every people of different ethnic background as they came along. But it was short-lived, and we lived in this community for a long time and under very favorable situations.
Now, his first name was what?
Albert.
Albert.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were raised on Edward Street, right across from the school, and you spent a lot of time, of course, on Goat Hill, which is, of course, across the street from Rantoul Street, going down School Street to Wellman and Porter and all those areas. What are among your first memories of growing up in Beverly as a little kid on Edward Street?
Well, Edward Street, I don't think any kid in the world grew up any better than I did. We were down the playground. That was our center of operations.
That's the Goat Hill Playground.
Goat Hill Playground, which is now named the Gillis Playground.
Correct.
After
Correct.
two people from Goat Hill, both friends of mine, died in World War II.
That's right.
That was, and it was just fantastic. We had the river, we had the playing field, we had everything, and it was a great place for kids to go grow up. We were in on the river a lot in a boat. We used to go out in a boat as we grew a little older, get jellyfish, cover them over, and then we'd go pick up couple little girls, and take them out and pull the cover off, just to hear them scream. Very nice place to grow up.
Now, you know Mr.
Gershaw.
Would you put that up there so we can see it? Mr. Gershaw was a store in the neighborhood, right near you.
Right. His store was at the corner of Rantoul and Edward Street, but his house was on Edward Street right next to the store. And that store was another center of activity. He sold the famous penny candy that we bought in those days. For a nickel, you could get a big bag full of candy. And he also had pinball machines in there, and if you won, you could win a little more candy. But it was a great place to go, and they were a great family.
Did you go to school with a son or anything?
My brothers did. They went to school with the son, Ira, and the other son, who played football for Beverly High. I can't think of his name right at the moment.
Put that up. Now this is the fire station on Rantoul Street, which is, I guess, an antique store today.
Yeah, it's some kind of an antique store. That's in the corner of Rantoul and School. Very beautiful building. And it was very nice having it in the neighborhood. Originally, it had the horses and the first engines of Beverly. That was one of the first stations that got rid of them and went modern, as it were.
The next picture is on Cliff Street, which you and I were talking about, which is in front of me here. Cliff Street is, you and I were mentioning this and discussing before the program, Cliff Street is a very nice location for people to live today.
Yeah, beautiful. My grandmother lived on Cliff Street for a short time until she passed away. I hadn't started the first grade up to that point, but I can remember going there from Pleasant Street, where we lived at that time, in a carriage up to see my grandmother. They still had gas instead of electricity on the lights and etc. But I always loved to go up there. Underneath their house, they had a little sloping garden, and they used to play bocce there all the time at that time.
That's interesting. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, the nice thing about Cliff Street and Goat Hill is you're pretty much surrounded by water.
Yeah.
So on a hot, humid day, like the day we're talking here in the studio, you get nice air, nice breezes.
Always.
And we both discussed this, that people have bought these small houses and upgraded them and expanded them, and it's still a quiet place to live in the city of Beverly.
Goat Hill is like kind of a forgotten area. Some lovely houses down there, close neighborhood, and it's maintained that character up to now. I was fortunate enough to start their Thanksgiving road race this year. I shot the gun that took it off.
Did you really?
That set it off. The Morandi
That's
brothers
right.
were
That's right.
that. That was very nice.
Stephen Morandi, one of my runners at Beverly High School.
Very nice kid. I
Nice-
belong to, that's
nice
the Goat Hill
AC.
running club. I
Goat
belong,
Hill AC.
I'm a member of that.
It's a nice, tight-knit community.
Oh, it's great. It's
Yeah.
nice down there.
The next picture we have includes Goat Hill, but it's an aerial picture of the two bridges and some of the wharves, and of course what was called metal hydrides back when you were growing up.
Yeah.
And before that, I guess it was Stuart Last, which goes way back. What are your memories of metal hydride, which today is an open space where they're going to build a hotel or condo area, I think?
Well, at the time when I knew metal hydrides, it was kind of a secretive place. They did a lot of work down there, I understand, for the atomic bomb, you know, and not too much was said about it, so we kind of kept away from there.
But what did you hear and what did you know that went on?
We heard that they were working, had some relationship with the atomic bomb at that time.
But didn't you tell me there were some people that were injured down there?
Oh yeah, a fellow named Marino was killed, along with another person that I don't remember his name down there, while they were cleaning out some of the apparatus down there. Marino was a very nice man. Came from Revere, very interested in sports, and started many sports programs in Beverly. Also officiated.
Now, the next picture is of Wellman Street, which I think you said kids used to slide down in the wintertime.
Oh yeah. Well, once it snowed back when I was young in the 30s, the streets stayed snow covered for many months because we didn't have many automobiles. So we used to slide down the hill there, starting in the first snowstorm until well into January, February, sometimes even into March. Fantastic, right down the street.
The next picture is a remarkable one, and it is you playing baseball, is it, in the 30s?
Oh yeah, that's the Ward 1 midget.
The Ward 1 midget football, baseball
team.
And you're going to identify a couple of people in that picture that are generally known.
Well, on the front row on the left, that's Frank Estes. He ended up owning Marshall's stores, that young man there. Very smart boy. Next is Cliffy. Now, that's not clear to me, but next is Latito, who owned a lot of property around the
Sure did.
waterfront. Tommy Latito.
Yeah.
And above him, above Latito, that's Bill McPherson, who was deputy fire chief in later years, and he still lives up in Ralph's side and looking pretty good. And over there, up above, the kid with the hair on the top row, that's yours truly. Great hair, huh?
But you also had a black fellow in the picture that was a good friend of yours.
Oh, God, my best friend, Stowe, Eugene Stowe. We used to call him Sugar Stowe. He was a great kid.
So I think we know there are 3 black families in Goat Hill, now that you have identified this fellow. Yeah.
Yeah, all nice families.
The Stevens, Blackstone,
Stowe,
and Stowe.
and Blackstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's another picture of a basketball team, which you are the coach of. And in this picture here, we have both Bob LeBlanc and Russ Rollins as, 10, 11, 12-year-olds?
That's right. That's 7th graders, so that would make them 13, right. Like that. But when I got out of the service, I really enjoyed sports. So we formed a grammar school basketball league, and we uniformed 4 teams. The Edwards School, the Hardy School, the Washington School, and the Cove School. And we went along very nicely for a while, but kind of broke apart after a while, which was too bad, but it was a really nice time of my life.
Interesting to what some of those people became.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the next picture we're going to show, if you'll move that fire station picture and the variety store, we have a picture of Edwards School. Just pull that.
This one's out,
Yeah.
too.
This is a
Yeah,
picture
we
from the
got it.
Historical Society of Edwards School with the workmen building the school in the front. So it's approximately 1912.
Yeah,
This is a pretty well-known picture. Now, you lived across the street from Edwards School,
that's right.
and you spent 7 years in Edwards School as a
7
student?
years,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Well, I started there in the first grade, and the school was built in 1913. The people that built it, they had $100,000 to begin with, and after that school was completed, they put money back into the city, which doesn't happen very often today, I'm sure. But it was a great honor to go there. The teachers were in charge, and it was great. You go in there and you mind your business, do the best you can, and you better, because if you didn't, you got it from the teacher, and you got it when you went home from the parent. And I had many great years there.
Now, you
This-
talked about the multi-ethnic nature of the school.
In the Edwards School, when we had the 75th reunion of the Edwards School, I went to the library and got out the town report. We had 17 different ethnic groups going to the Edwards School at that time during the 30s, which I thought was very good because it really enlarged your mind. And you found out how nice most people are at a young age.
Were a lot of them children of immigrants, do you think?
Oh, yes, I know they were. As a matter of fact, we used to have kids come in that couldn't even speak English in the second grade. After a few years, they learned to speak English very well. And one of them I met in Hawaii during World War II. He was very active. He was in the United States Navy, as I was. Joe Vaccaro came into the second grade at Edwards School. Yeah.
Let's look at the picture behind the picture of the school, which is, just put that up straight. This is a picture of the
That's
celebration of the school,
good. How's that?
which 75th birthday of Edwards School.
Yeah, we had a 75th anniversary. How many grammar schools have you heard of having a 75th reunion? And it was great. One of the Mitchell's women that I spoke about before, she played the piano there, and we just had a grand old time. And people that lived in Edwards House, which was moved from the property to build the school, is now over in School Street and Cox Court on the corner, were there, and it was just great.
And you were sort of the historian of the event.
I was a historian, yeah.
And what did that entail?
Well, I went up to the library and looked up different facts and presented them at the different situations we had there.
Now, there was one teacher that you and I were talking about that was honored by her students a short while ago.
Yeah.
And that was Miss Murray, who's now Mrs. Shaw,
yeah.
who's still alive, way up in her 90s.
Yeah, she's way up in the 90s.
So tell us about her.
She grew up in Goat Hill also, Porter Street, and she was teaching at the 5th grade when I went there, and I had her as a teacher, and I was very honored. Now she's at the Heritage House behind the hospital, and she's still alive, and she's still beautiful and nice as ever.
Now, tell us about the reunion for her, which was maybe, 5 or 6 years ago?
That's right. A bunch of us got together, and we took over to Danforsport, and it was very nice. And I'll tell you, she's a very, very lovely woman and a teacher.
You told me she came to your Thanksgivings, and what were your Thanksgivings like as a child?
Well, she used to come to dinner to my house at Thanksgiving. We used to sit down to eat around noontime, and we went through about 6 or 7 courses like Italians do, and we also had the turkey in there somewhere. And when you come to an Italian Thanksgiving, Don't eat too much on the first course because it just keeps coming.
But as you pointed out to me, it's extremely social.
Oh yeah, very
Yeah.
nice.
So you'd have your mother and father would have a large group of people.
Oh, we always did, yeah.
Anything else about the Edwards School before we move on to something else that you think of?
Well, I know in an hour I'll think about a million things, but right now I'm a blank.
Well, Miss Williams was the principal.
She was a principal.
And you mentioned another teacher, I think, was your second grade teacher.
Yeah, Mrs. Wittenhagen. And you better line up and do right in her class or else you'd hear about it.
So the teachers were strict, but you got a good education.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what was Briscoe like? You went to Briscoe in the 8th and 9th grade?
Briscoe was very good. We had a nice group of teachers, plus we had our song, here's to dear old Briscoe, and everything. But it was a very nice school to go to. Even at that time, the building was condemned.
It was old, yeah.
Yeah, it was old, but
1874.
it's still there
Yeah.
and looking very good.
Ocean View, downtown Beverly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then you went on to Beverly High School, but in your case, you went to the Beverly Trade School,
Beverly Trade School.
which is now history. We no longer have a trade school.
The building is gone and back. But I took the printing course under Mr. Bloss, and it was very good. But of course, all us kids, we didn't go into printing or anything at the time. Instead, we all went into service. But when I came back, I went into the printing business and ended up for 5 years over the Salem News as a linotype operator and a makeup man, which was very nice.
And a lot of your friends probably learned trades at the Beverly Trade School.
Yes.
It was a pretty active place.
Oh, very active.
Machinists, carpenters, printers.
Yeah. Woodworking. Yeah, like you said, and patent making.
That's right.
Yeah, and patent making. Well, was always busy.
Claude Patton was the principal of the trade school.
Yeah.
And Rita York ran the office.
She ran the office.
Yeah.
And she was a disciplinarianist, whatever.
In other words, you went to the office at the Beverly Trade School, she was going to give you the business.
Yeah, she straightened you out.
Yeah. She lived up in Centerville, I think.
Yeah, she did.
Now, you didn't play sports, even though you liked sports,
Oh, yeah.
because you got out of school at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we went to school till 4.
Now, were you in a cooperative plan? Did you go into print shops at all?
No. We just stayed one week in the high school history and all the regular courses, and 1 week in the shop.
Now, the next picture I have is of your 2 children, but I want you to talk about your wife also, your first wife.
My wife was Scandinavian.
Her name?
Her name was Gladys Matson. We had a lot of Scandinavians down Gold Hill from each Scandinavian country, Norway, Finland,
Right.
Sweden. My wife's mother came from Bergen, Norway. My wife's father came from Finland, and a very beautiful girl. And she had a brother, Dick Matson, who went to school with you.
Yeah.
He was captain of the football team and president of the class of the year after you, if I remember correctly.
1954.
Yeah, Dick Matson. And as a matter of fact, my wife died approximately 30 years ago. And next year, I'm going up to Norway, to Bergen. And I've been looking forward to it, to see the town in which my wife's mother grew up.
The Gloucester of Norway. Very active fishing port. I was there a number of years ago.
Yeah.
So you married a Scandinavian woman.
Scandinavian, yeah.
You are very Italian.
Very.
Was there any problem in terms of marriage between the two?
At that time, you were supposed to marry your own. There were some problems, but love knows no bounds, right? She was beautiful.
And the picture we have up here is of your two children
Yeah.
as babies. You want to talk about them and
Yeah.
identify them?
Of course, you can tell my boy's there. He's clamming to get on in the picture. My daughter, Sylvia, she lives in Hamilton now. I won't tell you her age. And my son, he's a manager of a store in Peabody. And they're great kids. They got a good education. They both have good jobs. And they're very good to their father.
Now, Mark lives on Lothrop Street.
Mark bought a house on 22 Lovett Street.
Lovett Street, my
And
area.
he's been there for a long time. Beautiful house. You know, Lovett Street, some beautiful homes down there. My daughter lives down in Hamilton on the lake. And very nice down there, too.
Now, you were telling me that you left the printing business to become a policeman around 1960
Yeah, around that time.
because some changes were happening in printing.
Well, printing got automation came in. If a guy sitting in Chicago could print up the paper for someone all over the country. So where you had 40 guys working as a printer, compositor, you only needed 10. So seeing the handwriting on the wall, I applied for the police department and got on the police department. And I might say I enjoyed it, and I had a very good career there.
You were telling me that when you made the changeover, it was difficult for you because printing, you produce something,
Yeah,
and a policeman, you walk around a lot.
that's right. Yeah. You kind of, in police work, you probably work at the most 10 minutes out of an hour. So in printing, you worked all the time.
What did you enjoy most about being a policeman?
People. I enjoyed talking to people. And I thought the most important thing we could do was help them out. And we had many opportunities to do that.
Give us an example.
Well, if you see someone with a flat tire, you help them. Even it comes to the point where you change a tire for them. And you do things like that. And you try to talk to people because most people are very good, you know, and you don't hammer them, you know.
We have a picture here that you claim is quite famous. You are at Ellis Square with a bunch of kids. And you want to tell us about it? It seems to me that picture went all over the country, you said.
That picture was taken by the Beverly Times. When the kids, when they found out that I was being transferred from there, they gave me a party.
This was Ellis Square?
Ellis Square. There's only a few kids there, but there were 400 kids at the party. So there was a photographer from the Times that took several pictures, and he sent this particular picture to the newspaper that goes all over the country in schools.
The Weekly Reader.
The Weekly Reader. And it went all over the country and in schools. I have a copy of it home. As you can see on the left there's a policeman holding a heart. If you lift up, all the kids signed it, and I got 6 or 7 cards like that from the kids. And I'll tell you, that was one of the nicest days of my life right there.
Now, when we're talking about kids at Ellis Square, first of all, there was a box where the policeman stood
Yeah,
to direct traffic.
yeah.
Were you in that box for a while?
When I first got on the police department, that box was there. But too many motorists thought it was a target, so consequently they took it down.
Now, there's St. Mary's School, still there.
Still there,
There's a community college, which now is Ocean View.
yeah,
And there's Hardy School, which
Yeah.
is no longer a school, it's now Montserrat School of Art.
yeah.
And all of those kids were more or less
Oh, yeah.
dealing with you. So we're
Oh,
talking
sure.
3 schools, I guess.
The square was a particular neighborhood. It was a neighborhood. And it was a very socialized neighborhood. So it was great. Everybody, and I was part of that. And oh, God, that was the best 5 years of my life.
Goodwin Store.
Goodwin's.
Did the buses
the
still?
Almy.
The buses still come in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the nuns used to come from Wynnum. And they used to come in once a week to shop in Almy's, and they're such nice girls. It was great. Great part of my life.
What was the biggest crime scene you were involved in?
See, that's a hard one.
Did you pull your gun on a number of times? Or?
Not very much.
Yeah.
Not very much in
Yeah.
Beverly. Beverly, we've been very fortunate here. We never had it. Well, a few things, but I wasn't involved in too many. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Silvio, for coming in and spending a half hour with us and giving us your insight of the city of Beverly and some of the things that were going on. Your perspective is much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.